was afraid of not being his own self anymore. I guess that's the simplest way of putting it. That calm way of life drove the lone power wild with hate, and it swore to attach fear and pain to it, and make it a lot more interesting. Cerise sighed. The whale's job then was what it is now, to be masters and caretakers for the fish and the smaller sea people, the way you two-leggers are for the dry land beasts. So naturally, the only wizards in the sea were whales, just as humans were originally the only ones on land. That early on, there were only 10 whale wizards, all seniors. Ni Huinyi, they were called, the Lords of the Humors. Nita was puzzled. It's the old word for emotions, sort of, Kit said. Not like funny humor. I know, Nita said, annoyed. She hadn't. Cerise blew, laughing. The spray missed Kit this time. Those 10 whales ruled the sea under the powers, she said. If the lone power wanted to trick the sea into the great death, it had to trick the 10. Then all the life they ruled would be stuck with the great death too. So the lone one went to the 10 in disguise, pretending to be a stranger, a new whale sent to them so that they could decide under which of their masteries it fell. And as each one questioned the lone power, the stranger whale offered each of them the thing he wanted most, if he would only accept the gift the stranger would give him. And he showed them just enough of his power to prove that he could do it. "Uh-oh," Kit said softly. "I've heard that one before." "Apples and snakes," Nita said. "Yes, the pattern repeats." One after another the lone one tempted the 10. The sea was silent then and gave them no advice. Some people say that the powers wanted the 10 to make up their own minds. But however that might have been, 3 of the 10 took the gift and fell. 3 of them were undecided. 3 of them rejected the gift. And the lone power needed a majority of the lords to accept death, or its victory would only be partial. "Those were only 9 lords, though," Kit said. "Yes, and here the 10th comes in. The Silent Lord, they called her. She was the youngest of them, and each of the other 9 tried to bring her around to his own way of thinking. The lone one came to her, too, and tempted her as it had tempted the others. You know, though, that it's the youngest wizard who has the most power, and where the other lords were deceived, the Silent Lord wasn't. She realized what the stranger was and what it was trying to do. She was faced with a difficult choice. She knew that even if she rejected the stranger, the fighting would only go on among the other 9. Sooner or later they or their successors would accept the gift and doom the whole sea to the great death. But she also knew something else that the sea had told her long before, and that others have found out since. If one knows death is coming, any death, from the small ones to the great one, and is willing to accept it fully and experience it fully, then the death becomes something else. A passage, not an ending, not only for himself, but for others. Cerise's voice got very soft. "So the Silent Lord did that," she said. "Luck, or the powers, brought one more creature into the singing, uninvited. It was the one fish over whom no mastery was ever given, the Pale Slayer, whom we call the Master Shark. The Silent Lord decided to accept the gift that the stranger offered her, and then, to transform the gift and make it safe, she gave herself up willingly to die. She dived into a stand of razor coral, and the master shark smelled her blood in the water, and... well... Sri blew. He accepted the sacrifice. Nita and Kit looked at each other. When that happened, the lone power went wild with rage, Cerise said. But that did it no good. The Silent One's sacrifice turned death loose in some of the sea, but not all. And even where it did turn up, death was much weaker than it would have been otherwise. To this day, there are fish and whales that have astonishing lifespans, and some that never seem to die of natural causes. The sharks, for instance. Some people say that's a result of the Master Shark's acceptance of the Silent Lord's sacrifice. But the important thing is that the lone power had put a lot of its strength into its death wizardry. It had become death itself, in a way. And when death was weakened, so was the lone one. It fell to the seafloor, which opened for it and closed on it afterward. And there it lies, bound. Bound? Kit said. Cerie, when we had our last run-in with the lone power, it didn't seem very bound to us. It had a whole alternate universe of its own, and when it came into this one to get us, it went around tearing things up any way it liked. If it is bound, how could it also have been running loose in Manhattan? Cerie blew, a sober sound. It's the usual confusion about time, she said. All the great powers exist outside it, and all we usually see of them are the places and moments where and when they dip into the time flow we're inhabiting. This world has always been an annoyance to the lone one. It gets frustrated here a lot, so it visits often, in many forms. From inside our time flow, it can look as if the lone power is bound in one place-time and free in another. And both appearances are true. Cerie rolled and stretched in the water. Meanwhile, outside the time flow, where things don't have to happen one after another, the lone one is eternally rebelling and eternally defeated. We gave it a chance to do something else when we fought last, Nita said. We offered it the option to stop being a dark power. And it worked, Cerise said, sounding very pleased. Didn't you know? It's also eternally redeemed. But meantime, we have to keep fighting the battles, even though the war's decided. The lone one's going to take a long while to complete its choice, and if we get lazy or sloppy about handling its thrashing around, a lot of people are going to die. The seafloor, Nita said, has been shaken up a lot lately. That's one symptom that tells us the 12 song needs to be reenacted, Cerise said. We do the song at intervals anyway, to make sure the story's never forgotten. But when the lone power gets troublesome, as it seems to be doing now, we reenact the song and bind it quiet again. Where do you do this stuff? Kit said. Down the coast a ways, Cerise said, off the edge of the plateau, in the great deep, past the gates of the sea. Imnu was getting ready to call the 10 together for a song in 3 days or so. He was training me for the singer's part, before they blew him in 2 pieces and boiled him down for oil. Her song went bitter, acquiring a rasp that hurt Nita's ears. Now I'm stuck handling it all myself. It's not easy. You have to pick each whale wizard carefully for each part. I don't know who he had in mind to do what. Now I have to work it out myself, and I need help from wizards who can handle trouble if it comes up. She looked up at them. You 2 can obviously manage that. And the 10 will listen to you. They'll respect you after what you went through up in the high and dry. You fought the lone power yourselves and gotten off." "It was luck," Kit muttered. Nita elbowed him. "Singing, huh?" Nita said, smiling slightly. "I don't have much of a singing voice. Maybe I'd better take the silent one's part." Sri looked at Nita in amazement. "Would you?" "Why not?" "Not me," Kit said. "I'm even worse than she is. But I'll come along for the ride. The swim, I mean." Sri looked from Kit to Nita. "You two are enough to make me doubt all the stories I've heard about humans," she said. "Neat. Best check that book thing and make sure this is something you're suited for. The temperaments of the singers have to match the parts they sing. But I think this might suit you. And the original Silent Lord was a humpback. The shape change would come easily to you, since we've shared blood." "Wait a minute, shape change?" Nita cried. "You mean me be a whale?" Kit laughed. "Why not, Neats? You have been putting on a little weight lately." She elbowed him again, harder. "Oh, you'd shape change too, Kit," Cerise said. "We couldn't take you down in the great deep otherwise. Look, you two, there's too much to tell, and some of it's going to have to be handled as we go along. We've got 3 days to get everyone together for the song so that it happens when the moon's round. Otherwise it won't keep the sea bottom quiet." Kit looked suddenly at Nita. "Did you see that thing on the news the other night? About the volcano?" "The what?" "There was some scientist on. He said that hot water vents had been opening up all of a sudden off the continental shelf. And he said that if those little tremors we've been having keep getting worse, it could open the bottom right up, and there'd be a volcano. The least it'd do would be to boil the water for 2 miles. But it could also break Long Island in 2. The beaches would go right underwater, and Manhattan skyscrapers aren't built for earthquakes." Kit was quiet for a moment, then said, "The rocks remembered. That's why they were upset." Nita wasn't thinking about rocks or Manhattan. She was thinking that her folks were planning to be there for another week and a half at least, and she saw a very clear picture of a tidal wave of dirty, boiling water crashing down on the beach house and smashing it to driftwood. "When should we start, Suri?" she said. "Dawn tomorrow. There's little time to waste. Hotshot will be going with us. He'll be singing the 4th Lord, the Wanderer, in the song." "Dawn," Nita chewed her lip. "Could it be a little later? We've got to have breakfast with my parents or they'll freak out." "Parents?" Sri looked from Nita to Kit in shock. "You're still calves? Is that what you're telling me? And you went outworld into a dark place and came back. I thought you were much older." "We wished we were," Nita said under her breath. "Oh, well, no matter. 3 hours after dawn be all right? The same place? Good enough. Let me take you back. I have something to fetch so that you can swim with us, Kit. And look." She gazed at them for some time from that small, worried, gentle eye, but longer at Nita. "Thank you," she said. "Thank you. Very much indeed." "Think nothing of it," Kit said grandly, slipping into the water and patting Sri on one big ribbed flank. Nita slid into the water, took hold of Sri's dorsal fin, and thought something of it all the way home. Senior's Song. The alarm clock went off right above Nita's head, a painful blasting buzz like a dentist's drill. "Ugh," she said, reluctantly putting one arm out from under the covers and fumbling around on the bedside table for the noisy thing. It went quiet without her having touched it. Nita squinted up through the morning brightness and found herself looking at Dairine.